Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining me again for another episode of Your Pleasure Incorporated into Daily Living. I'm your host, Ellen Nicholas Rathbone, sensuality consultant and life coach. Today, I'm going to talk to you about nude sunbathing and why I absolutely love it and why I think it should be given consideration. So the first thing I really like about it, just to be a little bit honest about it, is no tan lines. Okay, that's kind of great because who wants to look like they're wearing a bathing suit when they're not wearing a bathing suit? It's just really kind of silly. And and then really, if you've ever swam naked, it is such a freeing, exhilarating, sensual experience because there's nothing restricting your body. You're just moving as one with the water. And it's really quite different than when you're wearing a bathing suit. So bathing suits have their place, I'm sure, but it's not the only way to enjoy swimming. The next reason is because I believe that I should feel comfortable in my own skin. And I believe that our society should elevate its consciousness to be able to recognize that we were born naked and it's our skin. And it's honestly, it has been taught to us to feel shame around our body. And that's why a lot of people make love in the dark, for God's sakes. And then other people could never, ever go to a nude optional, a clothing optional beach. I remember the very first time I had my very first experience with a nude beach. It was in Saint-Tropez in France. And I went there with my traveling buddy, and she was very willing. Everybody else was naked. She was very willing to just take her top off and just throw it to the wind and take her bottom off, and she was fine with it. But it was my first time on a nude beach, and I was kind of self-conscious. I was thinking if I was going to be leered at, if I was going to be hit up on. I didn't want any of that. I just wanted to be able to enjoy the beach. And I remember I didn't take my top off or my bottom off as quickly as my roommate did. And there were people looking at me like, oh, that poor girl. She probably had some kind of surgery or something. And now she's afraid that if she takes her top off, people will see that she's deformed. Anyway, the looks of pity on their faces was enough for me to say, wait a minute, there's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with any of this. All right. When in Rome or Saint-Tropez, do as the natives do. So I took my top off and everybody just said, oh, she's okay. And then they went back to their lives. It was really quite liberating to be able to lie there, enjoy the sun, and not worry about being bothered or harassed just by the fact that you were naked. I mean, actually, not for nothing, nudity is an anti-turn on. Okay. So if you go to a nudist colony, everybody's walking around naked. It's not like everybody's jumping everybody else's bones. They're not. But if the person puts on pasties or a G-string, everybody is hot then because clothing makes a statement about who you think you are. And you know what? When we're naked, we're all the same. We're all the same. You can't tell if you're a CEO. You can't tell if you are, you cannot tell how much money you make or what you do for a living or what you think makes you important when you're not wearing any clothes. And so being nude is something that is very, very natural. But for a lot of people, it's very, very scary because without their clothing, they are judging themselves and afraid other people are judging them as well. Now, I wrote this, and I really think this is important. I was inspired to write it. So being comfortable in my own skin and not holding on to a religious shame is really important for us humans. We're born naked and taught to feel shame and loathing, if not for our whole self, certainly certain parts. This kind of psychological tug of war between needing to love ourselves unconditionally and holding on to shame taught by religion is, in my opinion, one of the greatest reasons for all of the world's sexual dysfunction. Now, the beach, the beach on Saint Tropez is very different, and all the beaches in Europe that are clothing optional are very different than the beaches, the nude beaches that I've experienced in New Jersey. Now, the people, I have to say, are pretty chill, but there's always going to be someone on both that wants to look a little longer, and that is called leering, and that is taboo on a beach, on a nude beach, because we're all there just to relax, and we don't want to feel as if a predator is surrounding us to come in for the kill. And when somebody is leering, that's exactly what it feels like. And, unless you're, a little dementia or, not quite there, you can't help but pick up when somebody is leering at you. I mean, it's not a super skill. It's really just part of being human if you're paying attention to it. So being naked can be psychologically uncomfortable, but unless someone is in your face, it is your paradigm of thinking that is causing your discomfort. How freeing it will be when you finally try the getting naked on a nude beach. Now, there are 7 rules and I just mentioned one of them, but I'm going to go over all 7 for first timers on a nude beach. Number 1, familiarize yourself with the local rules, because every town is different in what they accept. Some are topless and bottomless. Understand what you're coming into. The second, as I just said, don't stare. It's not nice. It's very uncomfortable, and you wouldn't want anybody doing that to you, so don't do it. I mean, if you see somebody and they look nice and you think to yourself, gee, that looks really nice, why not? But to stare at people is just plain rude. You wouldn't do it on a regular beach. You wouldn't do it at work. Don't do it on the nude beach, because there's no reason for it. Leave your camera at home. That's number 3. And that's a very good point, because some people use their cell phones to try to take pictures. But if somebody on the beach sees you using your cell phone, don't be surprised if they don't take that cell phone and throw it into the ocean, because you're asking for it. Okay? It is not okay to take people's pictures without their permission. And it is an unspoken rule, and now I'll speak it, not to take pictures of people that you don't know and that did not give you permission to take their picture, whether they have clothing on or not. You're not the paparazzi, and they're not a movie star. You have no right to invade their privacy just because they've chosen not to wear a bra. All right? 4th, carry a towel wherever you go. You never know when you're going to want to sit down, and sitting bare butt on the beach can really be uncomfortable to your sensitive bottom parts. I know this goes without saying, but I will repeat it. Apply sunscreen liberally and often on all exposed skin, especially parts that have never seen the light of day before, because the rest of your skin has been conditioned to be able to sustain a little bit more sun by the fact that it's been exposed to the sun. And, you've been putting sunscreen on it for years and years. But your breasts, your butt, your penis, testicles, anything that is out there that usually is not exposed to the sun needs an extra dose of sunscreen, so that you don't get incredibly burned and incredibly uncomfortable. All right. Now you can always put aloe on it and everything else, but I'm just telling you that that area, any of those areas that have not been sunscreened regularly are super sensitive and they need extra attention. So don't think, well, I put my sunscreen on an hour ago, it's good. Not for that part. Okay. Especially if you're in direct sunlight. This is a good point. Number 6, keep your distance from others. All right. Everybody needs their own personal space, whether they have clothing on or not. If you have clothing on, the distance is 3 feet. You're not supposed to get into somebody's space more than 3 feet. So and that's when you have clothing on. Now, when you have no clothing on, I would say triple that. Okay. Because we don't need anybody on top of us. We don't need anybody trying to see something they're not that it happens too much at the nude beach. And I think it's because everybody knows these rules. People just respect each other's need to get some sunshine. I'm not saying that men don't hit on women and women don't hit on men, but if the interest is not expressed back, they leave them alone. It's not like, well, hey, come on. No, I'm not here for you to hit on me. Okay, I'm here to catch some rays, and they get it. And if you're going to a nude beach, you should get it too. And this is number 7. It's kind of really important. I know nudity often inspires sexual interest, right? And, if you allow your imagination to go there, your genitals will respond, even if there's nothing else going on other than naked people. And as I said, nudity in itself is an anti-aphrodisiac. If you see enough of it, it's like, same old, same old. It's when you put the clothing on that it adds a little fantasy to it. So just because people are naked and you're new at this experience, do not think that it's okay to indulge in any kind of hanky-panky. That's what I want to call it. Whether it's by yourself, none of that, or your partner. You could have come there with somebody and now you're like, ooh, baby, everybody looks so tasty and so do you. No. Get close to each other, hug each other, and go home and fuck. Don't do it on the beach. Don't jerk each other off. Don't do any of that on the beach, because you wouldn't do it on a public beach with clothes. You use that same judgment on the nude beach because it is the public space. Being naked is not necessarily sexual. Engaging in fondling, etc., can be. So it's a no-no. All right. We're not always sexual when we're naked, and being on a nude beach is not necessarily sexual. So it's important to at least respect the fact that you should be able to do this, and everybody should be able to do this. And you should want to be able to do this, because if you recognize where our prejudice came from about our nudity, it is imposed on us by all kinds of restrictive and damaging to our psyche proponents. And I really think that, not being able to be comfortable in your own skin is really sad. I invite you to try a clothing optional beach at least once in your life. Throw off the shackles of shame and enjoy the warm sun against every inch. Now, here are some of the nude beaches in the USA. Each of these has one nude beach. New Jersey has Sandy Hook. It's called Gunnison Beach. It's owned by the federal government. It's at the very end of Sandy Hook. It is the one that I frequent because I live in New Jersey. And quite honestly, it, like all the others, is a good distance from the parking lot. You have to really want to go out there. It's a good 20-minute walk from your car to the water. So that's about, on sand, we'll say about a quarter of a mile of that is on sand. So that can be tough. They're not making it easy for people to go au natural. And this also would discourage anybody who has small children to lug them out there just so they could do it. Most of these beaches are in very secluded areas, so the children will not see genitals, okay? In Massachusetts, there is Moshup Beach, and that parking lot is about a 10-minute walk to the water, okay? Again, it's not necessarily right there for you. Like if you go to Asbury Park, that you park your car and the water's right there. This is at least a 10-minute walk in sand, all right? In Oregon, on Sauvie Island, is Collins Beach. And in Nevada, believe it or not, is Secret Cove Beach. From the pictures that I've seen of some of these places, they look heavenly and they look like they are worth taking the trip. So if something different in your life, something fun to do, something exciting, and something you could say, you know, one time I went to a nude beach and it was in Nevada. And, you will not be any worse off for going, and you will feel quite liberated if you give yourself that opportunity. Now, these states each have 3 nude beaches each. Florida is one of them, Apollo Beach, and you park around parking lot number 5. And Playinda Beach, parking lot number 13. Holdover Beach is the oldest and officially recognized nude beach in Florida. In Texas, there are 2 nude beaches, and the only legally recognized one is Hippie Hollow. And outside of Brownsville in Texas is the UFO Beach. So that's kind of an interesting one because there's this thing on the beach that looks like a spaceship. Who put it there, how it got there, how long it's been there, everybody's speculation. But the bottom line is it doesn't look like it just grew there. It was dropped there somehow. So that in itself makes UFO Beach interesting. But again, a hike out to it. California and Hawaii are both tied with 3 nude beaches. In California, there's San Gregorio Beach. Another one near San Diego is Black's Beach. Then in Hawaii, there's Baker's Beach, Little Beach, and Kahena Black Sand Beach on the Big Island. There's also Secret Beach near Kauai. This is a statement of hope that you can be comfortable in your skin. If you're not as comfortable in your skin for whatever reason, learn that your body is your temple and treat it accordingly. Give it the respect that it needs. Give it the time and attention that it needs. Feed it correctly, exercise it, massage it. Give it the proper love and care so that you can allow any feelings of, well, it's obvious I don't care about myself. When you go out onto the beach where people are judging me, you won't care if they're judging you if you're taking care of yourself. You'll be like, you know what? I'm doing the best I can. There's no perfection in this world ever. And if there is, it's a fleeting second or moment of perfection. Everything is constantly changing. We want to enjoy our lives. We don't want to be ashamed of our lives. We don't want sexual dysfunction based on shame over our bodies. We need to be comfortable to enjoy our bodies, to love our bodies, and to take good care of our bodies. And going to a clothing optional beach is quite liberating. And go with a friend that you don't mind seeing naked and have a conversation, bring some lawn chairs, have some music, and watch the water, swim, enjoy. It is truly a sensory experience exemplified. It is multiplied by joy because of the liberation of your mind into what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. I'm not suggesting that you get naked any place. Absolutely not. We have to have some decorum. And there's a lot of people out there that need to keep their clothes on because they're very, very sexually frustrated and psychologically imbalanced because of it. So that's in public, of course. But on these places that they call clothing optional beaches, here's an opportunity for you to really be inside your skin, step out of a limiting paradigm, and enjoy the beauty of the sea and the water and the beach. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Your Pleasure Incorporated into Daily Living. I'm your host, Ellen Nicholas Rathbone, and it's my absolute pleasure to invite you back next week for another episode of fun and interesting pleasure ideas. Thank you so much for joining me. Please like and subscribe. Even if you don't watch the whole thing, just please like and subscribe because I'm not allowed to advertise. They say that, I talk about things that have some sexual content to them. And as far as they're concerned, I'm doing live sex on stage, which obviously I'm not. So the only way that the message is going to get out there is if my peeps hear the message, appreciate it, and share it. So please be my peep. And thank you so much for joining me this week. I'll see you next Wednesday when we do another great talk. This is your host. Namaste. Do your Kegels. See you next week.